Hello and welcome to the Creative Community Podcast. I am your host, Claire Beardraz, and today I'm going to be joined by a very special guest. But before I get into that, if you guys haven't heard of the Creative Community Podcast, I'll tell you a little bit more about that. So we're going to be having 10 episodes in total, and the purpose of this podcast is that I'm going to be interviewing loads of freelance creatives, anyone who identifies or, relates themselves as a creative, but also creative organizations. So we've got loads of different guests in a variety of different platforms and creative outlets as well. So be sure to tune in for the future episodes. But back to our first guest that we have. So I am joined today with Iroro Izanua. Say hi, Iroro.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
And we met through a poetry event.
That's
but
right.
before we get into that, do you want to tell a little bit about what you do and a bit of your background? Because I know you don't just do poetry.
No. So I run a small business. It's called Liverpool for 1 Million Eyes, CIC. And we use technology and we use stuff like videography to help men come out of the likes of mental health, and we use it to empower them. So I use poetry as one of the ways as well of helping them reach inside and pull out some of the stuff they've got inside in a positive way. So I use my CIC in a way of helping everybody. We'll do stuff in regards to mental health, and just giving people a voice to speak, really.
Amazing. And poetry is one of those outlets for yourself as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, cool. As I mentioned before, obviously Iroro and I met through a poetry sort of event, and some of the pieces that you sort of performed there, Iroro, really sort of touched me in a way. Some of the topics that you were speaking about, I think, were really important, and I guess kind of coincides with the company that you're involved with and some of those themes. I'm just wondering, how long have you been writing for yourself?
In total, I think 18 months, seriously.
18 months, okay.
Yeah. My sister used to write.
Right.
I always wrote in the background. And I think lockdown just encouraged me to do a little bit more. So since then I haven't stopped, to be honest with you. So it's been an interesting journey.
Yeah.
So it was like a bug, but I haven't been bitten by a bug. So I'm still writing. Whether it's good or not, that's the question. But it's still flowing.
That's good.
Yeah.
I feel like that's always a good sign. Obviously, we can all get those sort of mental and creative blocks at times, but the fact that in the last 18 months for you, it's been quite a fluid journey as such. Is that how you sort of?
Yeah, I see it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels very organic. Feels natural. Performance strange, but I'm getting there. But the process of getting it from the mind to the paper, to distributing it to whoever's there.
Right.
I mean, I like the whole process of it. So it's it's like you sort of sharing your journey with somebody, and hoping that it touches them in a positive way, or gives them a moment. So if I could do that, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of similar. So for those who are listening who don't know, I'm a spoken word performer as well. So I often write poetry myself, and it's often that similar thing. I quite resonate with what you're saying in the sense of like writing something that by then when you're performing it, people are either having that sort of light bulb moment, or they can relate to it, or they're just, any form of feeling or response to that. With your process, is that something then that you keep in mind then about how you might perform it, and when it comes to audience response and stuff like that? Because I know you said you're quite new to performing your poetry.
Yeah, I'm still sort of finding a way of letting there's key bits in the poetry that I would like to push out in a particular way so they understand it. So I'm finding that works, but it isn't easy though, standing there and baring your soul to people you've never met before, and sort of and expecting them to just be amazed by you.
Right.
So it's a very, very strange process.
Yeah.
You're baring your soul, and you're sort of looking for acceptance to a certain extent that, what I've wrote, is that okay? But I think what we write needs to be heard, because they're all very valid subjects. And especially with some of the stuff I've wrote recently about, you know, toxic masculinity. In regards to mental health, it's a massive, massive thing for me.
Yeah.
I think we brought some of the men up in this country in the wrong way, and it's I use my poetry as a way of declaring that's not right.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm a big guy, so people are like, why is he talking about that for? So, you know, I use it as a way of enlightening people that it's okay to reach inside and have some sort of emotion.
Yeah.
Yes, that's yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what I love about sort of creative mediums, but also specifically like spoken word and poetry. It's that idea and that concept of like you can push certain messages or certain topics that are important to you. I know you were just touching there on sort of mental health, toxic masculinity, and that sort of stigma that comes with mental health as well, and talking about it. I know that definitely some of the pieces you've spoken about before that I've been, you know, grateful to be able to witness you have those performances. I've been around mental health as well. I'm just curious, are some of those sort of pieces written around experience of others, or
Yeah. A lot of it myself, back, you know,
right.
Coming out of dark places, sort of the journey through that process.
Right.
So it's, you know, I like to discuss the stages of that. In my poetry of, you know, where I was,
Right.
you know, and then but where I got to with help.
Yeah.
I think with the right help, it can be a positive outcome.
Right.
So now I write about it to help others. So if I can put some stuff in the poetry that may trigger something in a positive way, and may get that person, you know, just a question. Okay, maybe I can do something this way, or maybe that way. But yeah, it's more about trying to just saying to people, men in general, it's okay.
Right.
It's okay. It's okay to feel that way. I know people are telling you it's not, but it's okay to feel that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of my biggest things, really.
So I know you're saying it's sort of like that personal experience that drives you to sort of facilitate that positive change, but also sort of motivates you with your writing around these certain topics as well. And I'm curious, obviously, because we were talking about just then, like the stigma of mental health as well, especially for men, especially for black men, especially those cultural differences. I know experiencing that for myself,
Huge.
even, you know, from my background as well. How was it then for you to transition from obviously overcoming that and then putting that into poetry and producing that and performing that? Because I imagine, you know, it's one sense of sort of being able to go through that experience yourself, then come out of that experience looking back and being like, okay, I'm going to write about it. But then to take that writing and then to perform it in front of people, I imagine is a whole nother sort of ball game in some way.
That's where I'm really strict with myself, because
Right.
sometimes I'll perform it and I'm like, I didn't really push the message the way I wanted to.
Okay.
But it's strange practicing something that's real.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Something that's real.
Yes. Yeah.
It's hard to practice it, because there were raw emotions at the time, and you're putting it on paper. So there's elements in there that I think people pick up on that are quite serious. I mean, some of the stuff I wrote recently was talks about the time when I think it didn't go out for a year.
Right.
And my mental health was that bad.
Gosh.
And I'm talking maybe 20 years ago, you know. But I've started writing about it now, and it may help somebody. It might help somebody. And what I did, what I had to climb out of to get to where I am now, where I run my own business. I empower other men. You know, white, black, it doesn't matter.
Right.
I empower, and I think it's just something that we don't do enough of. So I just thought, you know what, might as well. You know, you live such a short life, don't you? So if you can encourage others instead of putting people down, I think that's the way forward.
Yeah, definitely. And it's again that idea of like not putting people down, like you've sort of said, but also building each other up and building each other up within our words, but also in how we navigate through the creative field, which can be tricky in many ways. I'm wondering, obviously, you've been doing this sort of spoken word and poetry and sort of really delving more into that side of creativity. How has that been for you, being sort of new to that scene and trying to find your place? Because I know, you know, from my experience as well, it's really tricky trying to figure out where to go, who will listen to what I have to say. Because like you said, you know, some of the pieces you write, or all the pieces you write, are important and deserve to be heard.
It is difficult. It's difficult navigating, especially through your work that you put together, when it should be distributed at that time.
Right.
I find it's very difficult, but I don't know. I think a lot of it, you could say, I like to do light-hearted stuff, but it's just it's not real. It is real, but it's not. You know, it's
right.
And I think like if I'm working on a book, and you said to me, you got to put light-hearted stuff in there, and I'm like, you know, that's why the book hasn't been done yet,
right?
Because I'm still debating with them whether I want light-hearted stuff in there. But I think I get what they're saying. They want it to be a story. But yeah, I think like any other writing, any other creative writing, it is about experience, and what you've experienced in life is the massive driving force in what you do.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm assuming yourself. I mean, growing up, I grew up in a predominantly white area when I was growing up, and it was hard. Right. I grew up on Kenny, so like it was there's loads of experience there that I've got to write about.
Yeah.
So many funny things as well. So it's just all material.
Yeah.
And if you can help somebody with it, you might as well help somebody with it.
Yeah.
What it's like to grow up, not to lose yourself. You know, because you look around, you're like, there's nobody who looks like me.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And it's like, it's saying to people, that's fine. Don't lose yourself.
Yeah.
So it's, I like I said, life is all material. It's how you use it. It's how you share that with somebody. You know, yeah.
It's about sort of taking those experiences, you know, being able to almost acknowledge and give yourself the time and space to look at what's happened, and then to move from it is to re-empower yourself by taking those experiences and having that fuel your work in a sense.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting because I know you mentioned you grew up in a predominantly white sort of area in Kenny.
Yeah.
I'm from London, so I had quite the opposite experience. I grew up in a really diverse, I would describe it, area. I didn't feel much like a minority, and then when I came and moved to a predominantly white city, then it suddenly became more apparent to me, and I found myself more fascinated in my racial identity, and again, try not to lose myself in a sense.
Yeah.
And I found that's fueled my sort of my work as well. But what I've also found is that it's been quite therapeutic for me writing those pieces. And it's you know, some pieces I write and I perform, others I just leave there. And I'm wondering if that's quite a similar thing for you.
Yeah.
Do you find it therapeutic? Are there some pieces that you're like, this is just for me in some way?
Yeah. I think there's lots of stuff that I've wrote that I've not read out to anybody. I mean, especially growing up in Kenya, one of the good things about that was my mum and dad were like both Nigerians, very, very, very traditional in the house. So it was very hard to lose yourself because the traditions we had at home were very much, you know, Nigerian. So and I think if it wasn't for that, it would have been a very difficult place. But it was very traditional. It was like, so we never really lost ourselves. It was just understanding. I think my dad always said to me, it doesn't matter where you live, it's how you communicate with people, really. It's all about communication. And that's what I'm doing now, I'm communicating. Yeah. Just in a way in a way people have to listen to. So some of the subjects that we talk about, I mean, in poetry, to have a discussion about that with somebody, there'll be a lot of arguments.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm doing a piece and you're sitting there, you have to listen. Yeah. There's no objection. You have to listen. It's subjective. It becomes art. Yeah. And that's how I look at it. It just becomes art. It becomes art where you have to listen to it. You have to take it in. And whether you like it or not, it's gone in. It's like, that's how I look at it.
Yeah, definitely. It is that sort of, that concept of when you're up there, it is almost like you're on stage, whether you're on a literal stage or not. That idea of it is still there. And like you say, it becomes art. And I guess in the writing process, it's formulating that, and then it materializes when you go into sort of performing it as such.
Yeah.
I'm curious about sort of your creative background, because I know you said that your sister was a writer.
Yeah.
So growing up, have you always been surrounded by creativity?
Yeah, I was. I mean, my mum and dad were very creative. My sister was very creative, but I think I always was naturally.
Right.
I was always doing something creative, you know, whether it was like selling stuff and finding a way of making a way. But when it comes to stuff like writing, I think that was always in. I think English language and English literature were always my favourite subjects at school. And I always thought I'd go into somewhere where I'd be writing, but I went and did something totally different. I mean, in university, I went and did sports science back in the day.
Right.
Like, yeah, I think it was 2000, 1999. So, yeah, so it's I never really went the direction I thought it was going to go. But I sort of done a big U-turn.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think sparked that for you?
I think it's just... I don't think you can run away from, like, your destiny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I just got
Right.
excuse me. I don't think you can run away from your destiny. I think if you're destined to do something, some people don't believe in that, but I do.
Right.
And I think it doesn't matter when, it will come round. It will come round, and you will get to that point. And I feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing now. And I'm trying to make a way where it could be something that I do full time. You know, it's difficult to do, as we know.
Yeah.
You have to do as many gigs as you can just to be seen. You know, sometimes it's a little bit infuriating because you're just like, you know, you just want to be accepted, don't you? And in a certain extent, because you know you've got the quality there, you've got the work there, you've rehearsed it, you just want people to say, yeah, I like that. You know, there's some possible avenues for you, but it's so difficult. It's such a big place. Not so much in Liverpool, but it's big everywhere else. So I'm currently navigating through what I want to do there. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, creativity and spoken word, poetry, it can take you in many different directions, can't it?
Yeah.
There's so many different ways you can go about. I mean, we both do poetry, and yet the way that we go forward with that is very different.
Yeah.
And I think that is what I love about a form like this. It's that we can all say we're poets, we're spoken word artists, we're spoken word performers, or things like that. But then you take a deep dive, right? And you can see that there are so many differences, and there's space for everyone within that. And it's not sort of this cookie cutter sort of vibe with it. It's not like you, in order to call yourself, or you know, say that you're a poet or spoken word artist, you don't need to like do X, Y, and Z. You don't need to have a book out. You don't need to like you know, have 100 pieces.
Exactly.
You could have one.
Yeah.
Just one, and you could still be, you know, it's still valid to call yourself that. And I'm wondering, for me, is it go out for me to say that for myself, to validate myself and say, I am a spoken word performer.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, for you, was it something that you just sort of was like, yeah? Like, do you remember when you sort of just, you were like, yeah, I'm a poet?
It took me a while to even say that, you know, because I thought it's something you have to earn. So, you know, if you go through like centuries, and poets were like respected people.
Yeah.
You know, they would use poets for most things, wouldn't they? And it's like, to call myself a poet, what do I need to do?
Right.
Where do I need to be?
Yeah.
And it was only when I spoke to somebody who's been doing it for years, when you're a poet. You just have to believe you are. You know, there's no light bulb moment. It's just you're writing work, and as soon as you stand up and perform it, you are what that is.
Yeah.
And it's accepting that. So now I say it, and like you said, I say it like as an affirmation. That's what I am. Right. You know. So yeah, it's taken a while, but yeah, I do. Yeah. For sort of similar thing for me, that idea of like, I am only a poet if I cover certain things. Exactly.
And I think it is a challenging relationship within that freelancing and trying to make sort of your creative platform your sort of income, your main income,
Yeah.
the one thing that you are doing most of the time. And yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah.
It's tricky, but
Very
I'm
tricky.
glad that we are both here and able to, believe in ourselves
Yeah.
and believe in each other to see how what we're doing, what we're saying is
Yeah.
yes, this is what we are. We are creatives.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm curious as well about sort of some of the pieces you've written, because obviously I know you said you are working on a book at the moment.
Yeah.
And what has that process been like for you? Because
It's strange because the people that
yeah,
it's dealing like with professionals,
right,
and it's like they're like, I love that one, so they like the hard stuff, but they want it ordered, structured correctly before they push it out. So it's just going through navigating through the illustrations, and it's been an interesting process. So it started last year when somebody said to me, have you thought about a book? And it was through a friend who
right.
knows the author, the publishers.
Yeah,
And you're like, you want to hear him this stuff, I mean, he's new at performing, but the content is good.
yeah,
And I always thought that I'd be a poet where I'd write and people read,
right, okay,
because the words are strong. So I always had it in mind that I'm not going to have to perform it. But did you say to me, if you have a book, people are going to ask you to read from it. So,
yeah,
so you're going to have to get used to it.
yeah,
Yeah, so I'm going through that process. So I'm hoping the end of, what are we now, April will be out. Let's see where we go.
that's really exciting.
I know, but it's strange because
Yeah,
I know people who are far more experienced than me. So I've been scratching my head about it, sort of, how's that happening? And it's just, I think it's just been in the right place
yeah.
at the right time.
Do you ever get that sense of like imposter syndrome?
100%, especially with that.
Right.
Because I actually kept saying to them, I haven't been doing this long. They're like, it doesn't matter. So to us, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But we believe that. When you said you were here at that moment and now you're here, we believe that. And they said, if we believe it, they're going to believe it.
So true.
Yeah.
It's the content that matters, right?
Yeah, that's what it comes to.
Yeah.
We believe it.
Yeah.
100%. And when he said that to me, that was it. I was sold by it. Yeah, so.
Would you say then, anyone listening who's had that experience of like imposter syndrome, I've not been here long enough, or, would you say, part of that advice is like believe in yourself?
100%. Yeah, because I was notorious for imposter syndrome. I mean, it's just, but I do believe you can be in the right place at the right time amongst the right people. The yes people, I call them. You just go, yeah, we'll help you with that. We like you. And it's all it's down to, whether they like you,
Yeah.
It's whether they vibe off you. That's it's simple as that. And I'm just friends with everybody. And it just naturally,
Yeah.
and I find that I love helping people if I can, and sometimes it just comes around, doesn't it? Sometimes, and you get something. I'd love to help you.
Yeah.
Push that a little bit further. So
That's what I enjoy about the sector that we're in the sense that you get quite a few people who want to lift each other up and want to help each other in any way that they can. I know you also have a bit of an event that you run where it's like take a leap of faith.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell our listeners a bit more about that? What inspired that?
Yeah, so Leap of Faith was about poetry in an environment where there was no judging. I think it went through the process of going through like the Jacaranda and doing a few other places, and I was just thinking, I felt it was really tough.
Yeah.
When you say it's a tough crowd, I was like, wow, that's a tough crowd. That. Because they're so used to seeing poetry. I think sometimes you just go to sort of mark it, to critique it.
Yeah.
So when I was speaking to one of the guys, I was thinking, we need to create an environment, a space where it's comfortable for anybody who wants to learn how to do poetry or to be able to come and just do it and don't feel like they're being judged. So it was just, I think it came from that idea that will start somewhere and eventually be somewhere else. So it started to pick up.
Yeah.
I think with the last one we had a few new people coming to, which was
did.
amazing, you know.
Yeah.
So it's and you're part of that journey as well. So it's like,
Mm.
you know, it was I think without me and you and Matt,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't go anywhere, but it can go somewhere. It's like, you know, we go around to, you know, sending emails out just to get on a slot.
Mm-hmm.
We've got our own slots.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, how then you have to sometimes wonder, how has that happened? We've got a forum for it. So we've already started something that we're not sure that we've got. But you don't know in a year's time where that'll be.
Absolutely.
People will be calling us saying, I want a slot.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. Me, you and Matt, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're creating our own environment, but we're
Mhm.
making it safe for others.
Yeah. Yeah. We're creating our own platform.
Yeah, creative.
Exactly.
You can come and do this here, providing you're not preaching hate.
Yeah.
We're happy to have you. But if you are, see you later.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
and that's. I like it because that's the way I love that environment. It just needs more people, bigger demographic, and that'll come in time. So it's just waiting. It's just being patient.
Yeah.
But we've created something ourselves there that other people are doing. You know, so it's, and some of those other people are like, I want to come and see what you're doing, especially phase one.
Yeah.
He's on me all the time. Dan, I want to come and see what it's like.
Yeah.
Because he's a bit worried.
Well, that's the thing. There's so many different open mic nights and so many different poetries.
So many.
There's so many, and yet, like, you're constantly. I constantly find myself on a waiting list for like months to try and
It's horrible though.
Yeah.
It's such a tough process, and you have to sort of sell an arm and a leg to get on that. And what I find as well, after you've done your poetry and when you do a write up, it's not a fair write up.
Mm-hmm.
The people that are regulars, they get a big write up,
Right.
and I think that helps them, but it doesn't help me.
Yeah.
Whereas on ours, it'll just be equal for everyone.
Yeah, yeah. And I know we've had this discussion before about sort of having that space for everyone and not having it very sort of exclusive. Yeah. And I think that's a huge frustration that I've experienced, and I know you sort of agree with me on that sense. Yeah. In a sense of like, you need to know the right people in order to get to where you need to go, or you need like a certain amount of like clout, and I put that in quotation marks.
Yeah.
But you know, in that sense, and it's super frustrating because, like you say, you know, it doesn't matter about the experience, the content is there. We need the space for it, and yet, you know, it can be so difficult to find. And that's what I love about this sort of take a leap of faith, is that it's providing that space for people who might just want to test material.
That's it. People
who just want to go over some things, get audience feedback. People who, I know we've had people who have attended who've not written before, but will go away from that night and be like, I feel so inspired.
I'm going to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never considered spoken word, but now I'm going to...
Yeah. That's what we want to create. Something different than what we're doing. Something that has a little bit more dimensions to it.
Yeah.
And it's encouraging like people to dig deep into their creativity, because we're all creatives.
Right.
All human beings are creatives, and it's tapping into that creativity. And sometimes you just need a little bit of help from those who are doing it, going, you can do this too. And I think that environment, that where we are, we're encouraging that. The other environments, you've got to be a seasoned veteran up there. You know, you deliver 20 million pieces of poetry. You know,
to be published. You need
to be published and all that. Yeah, so it's you get 20 books. You know, gone around the world. So so we're saying that you don't need that. All you need is a piece of paper with something that you've wrote on that you consider is personal to you, but you want to share it. Yeah, we'll listen to you.
Just bring some words.
We'll listen, and we'll encourage you. Don't worry if you forget the word. It's fine. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, when it's, you know, that exclusivity is one of the key parts of that. I dislike that word. Exclusivity. You know, it's non-inclusive, isn't it? Yeah.
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 So I'm just wrapping things up now, but it's really been so lovely to speak to you, Iroro.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if there's anything that you just want to platform now while people are listening to this episode, anything important to you?
Yeah, like mentioned, one of the key things for me is mental health within men in the UK. Men are becoming an endangered species. You know, it's
Yeah.
in regards to you know suicide rate and stuff like that. It's a massive concern. So my key message is don't give up. You know, don't give up. Keep going. If you find a way, keep going, because your story's not over yet.
Yeah.
And that's all I've got to say. But yeah, so
It's, as always beautiful with your words. And I think that's a really, really important message.
yeah.
So that brings us to the end of our episode for today. I just want to say thank you to LVP Online for providing us with the studio space and equipment and resources to put on these episodes that are going to be coming up. If you like this, please stay tuned. We're going to be releasing episodes weekly. And if you want to find out more about myself, you can find me on Claire Beardraz on all social media platforms. Thank you again, Iroro.
Thank you very much for having me.
Appreciate it. See you guys later.